What's up everybody, and welcome to Istanbul International Airport. And no, not this Istanbul International Airport. This is Istanbul's main airport for all of its full service carriers and long haul flights, including Turkish Airlines' hub. There's actually two major airports in Istanbul, one in the upper left corner of the city, and the other one, which is where we're going to be flying out of, Sabiha Gökçen International Airport. This is where most of the low-cost carriers fly from, and a few select full-service carriers. Our flight today is on Pegasus Airlines, a Turkish low-cost carrier that has the bulk of its operations based out of this airport. And an hour and change later, we're arriving into Kayseri, one of the two airports you can fly into to access the beautiful Turkish Cappadocia region. Kayseri's airport itself is also not just a commercial airport, but also has a lot of military operations. Coming back to Sabiha Gökçen Airport, and to the Turkish people in the chat, yes, I know, I am butchering that pronunciation probably. The airport itself only has one terminal and entrance for all the international and domestic flights, and as soon as you enter, there is a secondary baggage check just to make sure you're not bringing in any delectables. After that, the airport itself is quite what you'd normally expect in other major airports where there's just rows upon rows of check-in counters, and in this airport's particular case, most of those check-in counters were, as expected, Pegasus Airline counters, given that the airline has a hub here. And after completing the great ordeal that is Pegasus Airlines check-in, my reward was I got to eat the most expensive börek I had in Turkey, and it was definitely not worth it. Once you're done checking in, you can proceed to security, and like any other airport, there was a separate security for domestic and international departures. Once we cleared security, there's a pretty nice terminal area with a lot of different international and local food options for you to indulge in before having to go to your gate. I've never been to this airport, so I was just soaking in the tarmac and traffic views at this point, and one thing to keep in mind is that since Pegasus is a low-cost carrier, they turn around the aircraft very quickly, so if you're at the gate pretty close to boarding time, don't be surprised if your plane isn't there yet. Boarding did eventually begin, not in any organized fashion of course, because that's overrated, but rather just as a free-for-all.
Is the luggage under the cargo luggage? Okay. So the luggage on the plane door?
Okay. As you probably heard, and this is definitely common across low-cost carriers, they actually took my larger carry-on item and put it under the aircraft, and so I would be able to pick it up as soon as we landed in Kayseri. As you can imagine, the seats were pretty bare bones, not too much decoration on them or anything indicative of Pegasus Airlines as a whole, and given that this was a low-cost carrier, I was also a little worried about the legroom at first, and since they already took away my carry-on luggage, I just put my backpack overhead so that there was nothing obstructing my leg space. All that said, the legroom was actually pretty decent, and I'm 5'10" for reference. Looking out my window, I was very pleasantly surprised to see a Dough & Co. catering truck pull up. They're as good as it gets in terms of in-flight catering, and I was not expecting a low-cost carrier to have them. The only notable thing about the seat was the document holder in front of you that had the in-flight menu as well as safety cards.
Start our flight to Kayseri shortly. Today we plan our flight. Please remind me to wear the flight and I'll give you all the information about them.
Can be used in flight mode. Please put your mobile phones in flight mode as permitted. Smoking in the lavatory will activate the smoke. We wish you a pleasant flight. Emniyet kartlarını önünüzdeki koltuk cebinde göreceksiniz. Acil durumlarla ilgili talimatları ve önemli bilgileri içeren emniyet kartları kalkış öncesi incelemenizi rica ederiz. Uçağımızda 8 adet çıkış bulunur. Bunlar Yolcuların ikisi ön bölümde, 4'ü orta bölümde, ikisi arka bölümde yer alır. Tehlike anında çıkış yönünüzü belirleyecek olan ışıklar kapı üzerlerinde ve çıkış bölgelerinde, tavanda ve koridor boyunca yerde bulunmaktadır. Kemerinizi bağlamak için metal ucu tokaya... Değerli misafirlerimiz, Pegasus kafe servisimize başlıyoruz. Ödemelerinizde %20'ye varan indirim olduğunu hatırlatmak isteriz. Seat pockets. You can pay by cash, credit and chip debit card.
Now that you've had a chance to see the in-flight menu, I thought I'd take a second to explain how all of this actually works. When you actually buy your Pegasus Airlines ticket, you have 3 different fare classes that you can choose from. Saver, which basically gives you your baggage allowance, but then you have to pay for everything else, which includes the seat selection as well as your meal. Saver Plus gives you the flexibility of choosing a normal seat, and then you also get a sandwich from the menu included. Comfort Flex gives you all of that, and then also a little bit of flight flexibility and in-flight entertainment. Personally, if you're not looking to eat anything, Saver is probably your best bet, but I'd say the biggest bang for your buck here is Saver Plus. You get a standard seat selection and you also get a sandwich, and buying those individually on top of Saver is going to be more expensive than just getting Saver Plus, which comes with all of that. Comfort Flex, I would say, is not as much worth it unless you care about flexibility and in-flight entertainment for a 55-minute flight. I'd say Saver Plus is the best bet here. The sandwich I had was indeed catered by Dough & Co, and it was as good as I expected it to be. It was a simple sandwich, it was chilled, the chicken had flavor, the bell peppers had flavor, and I was expecting it to be really nothing much, but it was quite good, and given who the caterer was, no surprise at all. And it didn't make me sick, which is always a concern I have with low-cost carrier food. Once service was done, the crew also brought around hand wipes for everyone, regardless if you were eating or not, and basically by the time service was done, we had already begun our descent into Kayseri. Kayseri is an interesting city because it not only is the entry to the Cappadocia region, but it also sits at the foot of a large volcanic mountain known as Mount Arges, or as the American in me would have called it, Mount Erciyes. In either case, the view was pretty as we continued our descent into Kayseri. Looking back at the flight as a whole, Pegasus Airlines honestly did the job just fine. When you fly a low-cost carrier, you're looking for reasonably priced tickets, and Pegasus Airlines was perfectly reasonable. You also had the option to bundle in a few extra things at a reasonable cost if you wanted to. The legroom was also perfectly good. I'm 5'10" and I had a decent amount of space to stretch out my feet if I really needed to.